Hello and welcome to a special episode today where we're talking all things age tech. With over 10,000 Americans turning 65 every single day, the market and the opportunity for age tech organizations has never been greater. Well, one of the challenges that age tech organizations face is just the unique challenges of getting in front of their target market, whether that's the end user, the adult child, the caregiver. So today we're talking about different go-to-market approaches to marketing and sales to help you transform your age tech organization and help you grow. Today, I'm joined by SmartBug's leading experts in this topic, Tanya Spear and Tabitha Young, who have been working with organizations in this industry for years. We're going to talk a little bit about the market, approaches to marketing and sales, and what you can do from a technology perspective to help your organization grow. So let's jump into this first. Tanya, let's talk a little bit about the market. For some of the listeners out there that aren't really familiar with the age tech market, what are we talking about here? Tell me a little bit more about this.
Sure. And actually, Paul, it's been something that's kind of been new on the scene in the last year or so. And it's been referred to as a couple of things, whether it's elder tech or, things that are senior tech, silver tech, I've even heard. But age tech has been what's kind of latched on and been the common term that most people are looking for today. And it scales from everything to healthcare tech to products that we know that weren't developed for seniors. They think of AirPods, right? And how they're now being adapted for something that's hearing impaired. It may be marketed to an older audience. So we've got existing technology, existing services that are expanding into that aging audience. And we have others that have been created from a point of creating greater independence or mobility or tracking sensors for better health monitoring. And they were developed for the purpose of that aging market. So all those things kind of combined, it touches a lot of places. It touches some things that we're familiar with and also things that are probably new that we haven't heard of yet.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So tell me a little bit about the buyer's journey for this, because it seems like there's lots of kinds of companies and lots of different sort of personas that we're targeting for this. How should organizations be thinking about buyer's journey?
Now, I think what's interesting, and I actually have a unique bird's eye view of this because I do have aging parents and they don't consider themselves aging or they don't consider themselves older. So they're not really looking for products or services in that age tech kind of category. And there's two things to know about them. Number one is that they didn't grow up with technology. They are the last generation that didn't grow up with technology in any capacity. They either learned it in their professional life or they're self-taught or their children are helping them to, kind of dragging them along, kicking and screaming into technology to make things easier. But that's one thing, they don't think of themselves as getting older and they're not as tech savvy. And so there's a lot of trust that has to be built. And so that's the first thing that I think brands need to think about is how do we build confidence and trust and speak to them in a warm manner, right? Voice and tone is so important when you're building that go-to-market strategy, because as we all know, that age-old cliche of only one chance to make a first impression. And how do we do that, right? So understanding who they are, how they want to be spoken to, and being able to evaluate that voice and tone at the onset, I think is crucial for this. But we also have two distinct buyers. We have the buyer that's looking to buy for themselves, whether it's something that, maybe they want to monitor their own health or, they want to be more in tune to what's happening in their body, or even if it's like brain stimulation. When we think of the growing number of people or the growing numbers that we're seeing with Alzheimer's and how do you, there's apps and technology for brain activity to help prevent or slow that down. You may have someone shopping for themselves that identifies the need, or you may have someone like me shopping for my mom who I think needs this and I want to put it in front of her. So there's that education process for both the end user and the education process for maybe, in the B2B space, we call it like our champion, right? In the buying process. And, who is our champion? And a lot of times that champion is going to be the adult child that's helping to shop for their parents or older loved ones. But beyond that, we've also got another segment of the market right? Where we're looking at caregivers, and caregivers may not be, they could be a friend or they could be someone that's hired out. There's a lot of technology that's being developed to that for them as well to help make caring easier, and to help give them insight into what's happening and how they can be a better caregiver. And so there's a segment of the audience that we want to reach there. And one quick point to make about that is that the generations that are younger than the silver tsunami that's coming, the one that you were talking about at the intro, we've seen a change in population where they're having less children. And so the number of caregivers is going down as the number of people who need care is going up. So it's going to be crucial to develop and have this technology to help enhance that and give those insights and make things a little easier for those caregivers, because they're going to have more, people maybe in their realm that they're going to be responsible for.
Yeah, so you're talking about a lot about influencers or people that are involved in the buying decision, whether it's the caregiver or the adult child, and I think that can be tricky when you're thinking about just from a revenue and customer acquisition cost perspective. It's not just one person or one party you're getting in front of. It's a number of different individuals, and they may use different channels and everything like that. So from a customer acquisition cost, like what are this seems like it's continuing to go up, and it could be challenging in this type of environment. What are your thoughts on just customer acquisition costs in general?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be on the higher side than what we're used to seeing, simply because there's so many channels that we may have to integrate into this to reach these varying audiences, right? From everything from, I was laughing the other day when I was with my parents and I saw my dad scrolling on TikTok. And I don't think about someone his age being on TikTok, but they're there for entertainment. And so you may have someone like myself, though, who is on Instagram. They're not on Instagram at all. And how do you encompass all of these different ad networks and channels into your marketing strategy to make sure that you have the breadth of capacity, right, to reach the varying audiences? And that naturally is going to make it, number one, a higher cost to acquire that conversion, but also you need the space to to deliver multiple messages. So you've got the message for those two different audiences as well. So it's just a nuance of I think the space, and something that we experience quite often as well with our senior living clients. That's something that, as SmartBug, as a company, we have a name for what we've done in the B2B SaaS space, but also in the senior living space. And I think that that's something that kind of bringing those two pieces of knowledge together and helping customers as they're building that go-to-market understand that is going to be really important.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're talking about different messages for different audiences. And so it's not only like different messages, it's also the different messages on different channels. So it's like you're mapping channels and messages to these different personas. So yeah, I think, part of that playbook and for AgeTech organizations is really kind of mapping those messages to those right channels. Cause that's an interesting story of TikTok and your folks looking at that. What about just thinking, and then we'll flip gears to technology in a bit, but what are your thoughts on like compliance and security hurdles that AgeTech organizations may be facing when they're thinking about go-to-market?
I think that if you'd asked me that question maybe a year ago, my answer would have been a lot different. We are at SmartBug, we're a top partner in the HubSpot ecosystem. And now that they've become HIPAA compliant, it allows us to keep all that data and that data architecture all in one space. Before, they maybe had to have add-ons or a data warehouse or places where they were connected especially for products or services that maybe as part of that buyer journey require you to collect data that needs to be HIPAA compliant, and making sure that those protections are in place, how we acquire information from the customer, what we do with it when we put it back out to them, because it could include like personal information as part of your marketing strategy. So I think that it's gotten a little more simplistic for us, but being able to build that out and know how you're going to use that information, what those triggers are going to be throughout that buying process are really important. And organizations can save themselves a lot of time by thinking through that at the onset, as opposed to getting, halfway through their go-to-market strategy and then realizing, oh, we need to change this up, or we need to store this differently, or it would be more meaningful in our messaging if we captured this data and were able to tell the story back in a more personalized way to our prospect.
Yeah, no, I think, having the ability to store HIPAA compliant data inside of HubSpot, has really opened the amount of types of companies that can really leverage that CRM, which previously there was one other CRM in the market that you could use. And so I'd love to switch gears just from a technology perspective, Tabitha, and kind of help you think through some of the marketing, sales, and sort of customer service types of aspects of this. Maybe we can kind of go one by one, thinking about like some of the marketing systems that you think of that AgeTech organization should be putting in place to get in front of them. So just take me through, lead generation, attracting individuals, gaining that awareness in the market. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of jump off of what Tanya said about the buyer's journey being long. I just finished up some reporting for a client and they got a move in. It's great. But I was taking a deep dive in it. There was 5 influencers on that deal and they all had a different journey. They all were active in different ways. And really being able to keep that all in one place and know what is going on and monitor those signals is so important so that you can make sure that you are getting the right information out, not only to the masses, but also getting individual information out to each one of those specific people. So that's been a real game changer that we can do that. And then as AgeTech comes in, it's adapting how we are doing things for senior living or even like for some medical instances, and then just adapting that into a SaaS platform, but for those aging people.
Yeah, and so you talk a little bit about some of those marketing systems, and the influencers on that. It's fascinating how you can really track all of that in one area, so you have a complete picture of the person that could be moving in or the sort of the end user. What about any sort of sales enablement, automation, things like that you feel like sales teams would need in order to be successful with AgeTech?
Yeah, so we always like the automated lead nurtures, right? Or the automated sales email sequences for sales. But there's also so much more that we can do, leveraging your deal pipelines and putting things in stages so that you really understand the buyer's journey through that sales process and you're able to identify where they are and what they need. But there are so many other sales enablement tools as well that we just don't think of. AI chats is one of them that is a big one. And I know with AI, we kind of have to be careful because as we were talking about personas earlier, that's kind of that generation is very wary of AI, right? There's a big misconception on how people are using it, what it's going to do. It's going to be this iRobot situation where it comes to life and takes over. And that's just, it's not that it's misinformed. It's just that they don't know, right? They weren't taught, like Tanya said, they didn't grow up with it. So, repackaging some of those things in a way that can help sales, also be able to reach the persona.
Yeah, I think in that sales side of things too, something you talked a little bit about AI on this side of things. There's a number of like AI agent tools that are popping up, and I think that there's like the smart ways to use these tools with that makes it really still feel quite personal. One tool that where I'm really seeing more sales teams really adopting is the prospecting agent functionality, where you have someone come to your website, they fill out a form, they're interested in this if they're interested in the product or the solution, and they give a little bit of information on that form. Well, the response to that form submission from the salesperson should not be something generic, like, just book a call and we'll talk. Like, it should get a little bit more specific to the information that the person gave to us on that form. And I think that's some of the technology. And it's really exciting to see some of those more personalized responses that make it, that do leverage AI, but it's not like you're talking to a robot. It's like you're just actually getting more tailored and personalized answers. I think that some of that type of tech is really going to help sales teams talk to more individuals, give more personalized feedback and responses, things like that. So why don't we switch gears a little bit just to customer retention in AgeTech? think, what are the kinds of systems that organizations should have in place to help them think about retention, cross-sell potentially? What are some of those things, Tabitha?
Yeah, so I think it's important. Like your best customer, or your easiest sales win is your current customer, right? We got to keep them happy. They'll upsell if you upsell, like they'll purchase an upsell if you sell it to them. They will also spread word of mouth. So it's super important aspect that a lot of people just don't think about. Or it's not they don't think it is important because it's not like what's bringing in like the big bucks, right? But it is so important, and there are so many ways that we can support a team, or even like one person, just with some of the technology that we have. Again, I'm going to go back to AI chatbots. Like we have the ability to put together knowledge bases that include AI that are just scanning your site, and they're delivering, answers to questions that people have, but you may not have the manpower to put together. Or we have the ability to easily build and look at reporting that shows maybe where some gaps are, or if somebody is searching for something and we have a product that could fix that. Those are all things that we can put in front of a salesperson and go, hey, this is your opportunity to upsell. But it also gives us the opportunity to go, okay, maybe this person is not as happy as they should be, and we need to do a little bit of magic here.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of different customer success tools out there and everything like that. But yeah, even, some of them that are out there, it could be many times some of these support teams, they do more than support. They're doing sales, they're doing support, they're doing a lot of things. And so you really need an efficient system that allows you to have everything all in one place. So let's switch gears a little bit, Tanya. Let's talk kind of next steps and thinking about where AgeTech companies can go from here in scaling. Do you have any feedback in thinking about whether it's systems or strategy or anything like that we can close with today?
Yeah, I think laying the foundation is key, right? And even to touch on something that Tabitha said about like that influencer network and how you service them post sale, stay in touch with them, nurture them. This particular industry is so unique in that we have so many influencers, from that adult child to that buyer to even what we see in some of our senior living adjacent clients that do like in-home healthcare and things like that. The caregiver, the physicians network, all of those people are kind of, and it's not just one person. Once that buyer's in, they're continuing to see people that need that help and need that support. So I think understanding like how broad the audience is, making sure that you first get that go-to-market strategy that's going to encompass, I can't stress how important the voice and tone is, so that it doesn't feel intimidating, so that you build trust and you build confidence in the brand. That's going to lead to a deeper and more enhanced brand awareness. We all know, all of us marketers know, that the better your brand awareness is and the better your brand footprint is, the easier it is to own those conversations in SEO and to come up in those searches when people are looking for solutions, and make it less about the product, who you are, but more about the problem that you solve, or the life aspect that you're making easier, or, the health risk that you may be able to help prevent. What is it that you're solving for, and really understanding that why and being able to articulate that to that audience. Step 2 is, okay, now we know what the message is. How are we going to get it out to that audience? What channels should we be using? And I think the key is, particularly if you're a startup, because we have clients I work a lot with our PE and VC partners. And one of the things that I've noticed is a large trend. It's actually tripled in the last year and a half, the number of investment funds that have been created specifically focused on age tech, and technologies that are being created in this space. And so because we have a high customer acquisition cost, well, if you're a startup, you can't do everything, right? We wish that money we had a bottomless pit, right, when it came to that, but we don't. And so being really smart and methodical about where we start and then where we grow and scale. And the third piece, I'll hang on to that, is making sure that the data architecture is right from day one, so that you've built out and understand where you're going to store and collect the right pieces of data, so that, to your point, Paul, that marketing can become more personalized and more unique to that user's interest and what they're hoping to look for, just to make the buyer journey easier. Again, we've got people who are coming kicking and screaming into technology. They're a little bit nervous about it, right? And so we want to make that path to purchase as frictionless as we possibly can. And if we don't think about that inherently from day one, we've lost that customer forever. So I think we need to be, really set and solid in how we build that foundation, understand how we're going to use it, and making sure that we're presenting it to the world in the right ways.
That's a great framework, Tanya, in going through all three of those today. Tabitha, Tanya, thank you so much for joining today. If anybody out there would be interested in needing help in putting together a go-to-market strategy, or like some help in thinking through the systems and technology that you could use to help grow your AgeTech organization, please do reach out. We'll put the link into the comments. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.